And so it was a mutual mistreatment. It was collusion. Morale suffered. Communication got stiff, archaic, awkward.
No joy. Can you imagine that on our team?
There was no joy.
Fun.
I can't imagine any of this.
Right. Night and day different.
Really?
I mean,
Everything was hard.
like, is
Everything
this
was
shocking for you to hear this?
Yes.
When every single person owns the responsibility to live out of the box with someone else. It's the secret sauce to the health of every team, every relationship, every organization, including church and business, in my opinion, in our opinion, because of the quality of culture that gets built.
So you'd like to think that in a Christian organization we actually wouldn't collude with one another, that we actually wouldn't submit ourselves to self-deception and elevate our virtue and also exaggerate other people's faults, and yet it happens all the time. There's a virus that's affecting most every Christian organization in this country. That virus is self-deception.
Yeah. I think it's devastating and dangerous in every church, and we don't know it. So let's talk about some examples of that. How have we as a ministry team experienced the very virus or germs that became contagious and negatively impacted our team? And it takes us back decades.
We had a change in our team leadership, and the team unanimously voted to elevate a teammate,
A member of our team.
a member of our team, to the role of team leader. We were glad to do that, and
It was unanimous. Everybody agreed.
happily submitted ourselves to that person until it didn't take very long. There seemed to be a stunning, personality change, and what then happened was I went into the box.
With this person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And began to elevate his what I perceived to be deficiencies, and also at the same time exaggerated my virtues as a hardworking, contributing, selfless, member of the team that was not getting acknowledgement or appreciated in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I was getting a lot of distrust and suspicion from my new boss, which caused me or invited me to make the choice to elevate my own supposed virtues, overlooking my own contribution to the breakdown that he and I were having.
So I'm not sure how much of the interaction between Kirk and the new team leader was going on. I don't know how aware we were of all that, but I can say from my own reflection and recalling the interactions, it created a really negative impact for me and other teammates, because everything had to run through the new team leader. Every decision, we were asked to check that we had read emails, and it just seemed like a super micromanagement that we were not accustomed to.
So I'm curious, based on what you were just saying, are you saying that, because this is, for reference, I've been on the team for a little over 2 years. So I definitely wasn't around 2 decades ago. So at this time, you're saying that Kirk and the team leader being in the box towards one another, that was affecting the whole team, or the whole team was getting in the box towards each other? I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, I think both are true.
Wow. This sounds like the example of if the team leader was in the box towards you guys and was acting in a certain way, he would, like we talked about last session, that he was provoking you guys
That's right.
into your own boxes.
Inviting us.
Inviting
us.
Inviting.
No, I mean, provoke's a good word too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And so it was a mutual mistreatment. It was collusion, and we were stuck.
Wow.
Morale suffered. Communication got stiff, archaic, awkward.
no joy. Can you imagine that on our team?
There was no
No
joy.
fun.
I can't imagine any of this
Right.
on
Night,
our
Really?
night and day
Yeah.
different.
Really?
I mean,
Everything was hard.
like, is this
Everything was hard.
shocking for you to hear this?
Yes. I mean, I've been on the team 8 years. And
Yeah.
it's been 8 years of wonderful.
Creativity stalled. Innovation was non-existent. And I'm not overstating it. That's just how I experience it.
Wow.
There was
Yeah.
a real erosion of trust, not just with the team leader, but there began to be distrust with each other. We wouldn't risk ourselves for fear of pushback or punishment
Wow.
in some way, in whatever way.
Wow.
And so it became, I'm going to use the word toxic. There was no way for it to be redeemed, and it was bad. I say in some things that I've done when I've reflected on it with other groups, I think we were a mess, and we didn't know how to find our way out of it. It got so bad that
The culmination was.
culmination was the team leader and Kurt got together with some other
Well, no, hang on.
neutral parties.
Can I say that about the lunch that preceded this whole thing?
Yeah, I think that's real.
Yeah.
Right? So
he
yeah.
flew into town and asked me to meet him for lunch, and we're sitting at Islands or somewhere having lunch, and he said,
restaurant.
"Yeah," and he goes, "This team isn't big enough for the two of us, and I'm not leaving." You know,
Well,
which is
David did sit me down the other day at lunch and say the same thing.
about Kirk. Yeah, well,
No, seriously, that is absurd. I can't even imagine
Yeah, I know,
that
right.
happening.
Right.
and it was very distressing.
Yeah.
Because I loved the team. I felt committed to what our call was from God. We had a clear call from God. We still do, and we're still going after it. But God did intervene
Wow.
and
Yeah.
made some change and a personnel change and then a leadership change, which actually resulted in us moving into the most healthy and productive season
Yeah.
in the 22-year history that I've been part of this team.
Yeah.
And that's been the last 16 with Z leading us.
I want to say, guys, there's nothing more common and nothing more dangerous than when I betray myself, fail to do what I know would be beneficial to the other people on our team or in our organization or at the church. And when I fail to do that, all this stuff we talked about in the last episode is in play. I inflate my virtue. I only see my good points. I only begin to focus and obsess on the other person's negative shortfalls, bad points,
Defects, weaknesses,
however we
humanity,
want to talk
right?
about it. And that destabilizes the health of every organization. And we're saying it's pervasive and we don't see it in churches. So I want to slow the conversation down and begin to say, where do you see it? How does it play out? Because I've got some examples from my own experience of how it plays out. So, John, you want to jump in?
Can I share something real quick? Because I think as you're talking about this is just ringing different bells in my head. Of experiences that were like this, but even more so, it's ringing a different bell, which is, whether we're in secular work
Yeah.
or in ministry, I feel
You have
like
secular story?
I have secular stories and ministry stories.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay, good, good.
It is rampant, I feel,
Yeah.
as what you're describing. I'm thinking about, we're in America in search of the perfect corporate culture, aren't we? How many times how many interviews do you go on before you take a position because they want to make sure it's a cultural fit?
Yeah.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I'm hearing you talk about this, and I'm wondering, we're looking for a cultural fit, but what if actually we're looking for people who are willing to be out of the box towards one another?
Perfect.
I wonder.
It's
love
the
that.
secret,
I've never thought this before.
It's the secret sauce to the health of every team, every relationship, every organization, including church and business, in my opinion, in our opinion,
Wow.
because of the quality of culture that gets built when every single person owns the responsibility to live out of the box with someone else
Wow.
to the best that
Well,
they can.
and I'd say this, and it doesn't have to be every single person.
I mean, ideally, it'd
Ideally, oh, yeah,
it'd
of course,
be incredible.
Right.
Right.
But you can have a very healthy culture
Yeah,
with enough people out of the box,
and
enough of
and
the time.
agreed. And the people who are out of the box will help
Yep.
manage the expectations.
Coach.
Yeah,
Yep.
and invite people to be out of their box.
Yeah.
As well.
When, yeah, and we have language that gets inculcated into the culture where we're helping each other with the things that we're talking about that are better. Let me cut to the chase. So when I think about being and living out of the box towards colleagues or church members, it really comes down, guys. Remember how we closed the last session by saying how easy it is to get out of the box? Well, I want to create the opening that says, what if it's as simple as deciding to live in our work environments by the golden rule? I want to do for others what I would like others to do for me. And that becomes a dominant come from.
A
Because
cultural value.
Cultural value. My heart's at peace. And so the organization, so John, when you said what you said, yeah, what if we're looking for people who want that?
Wow.
Who are committed to trying to live that way? How does it play out? So in church, I'm not going to say one thing to your face, but secretly in my heart hold a grudge. Or I'm not going to go to a friend in the church and begin to add you, John, to the prayer list because you really need a breakthrough. You really need to get reconciled. You really need to forgive. You
Wow.
really need to do
That's
that.
too real. Yeah.
And so under the veil of
The guise.
righteousness,
Yeah.
I'm actually undermining the very relationships and culture of my church family. And we're saying that's happening all the time. And it's not being called out. It's not being acknowledged. We're not interrupting that way of being with each other. We've made it an art form in the South where, John, you and I live because we say things all the time like,
Bless your heart.
bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
So they're not so,
Followed
you
by
know,
whatever you want to say.
it's not that bad, bless his heart.
Yeah.
Which means it really is bad, worse than I'm saying. And so it's a level of dishonesty. It's just un-Christ-like.
Right.
And we're trying to say, what are some other examples that are naturally a part of a real dysfunction that comes out of my own betrayal? Can you think of something that comes to mind how churches behave with each other?
I mean, off the top of my head, I can think of, I'm a worship leader.
Okay.
I have been a worship leader before, and just the interaction over time. The interaction over time between me, whoever's leading worship, whoever's doing announcements, the pastor, whoever's, speaking, and even the flip, I have been the speaker, and
How
the
use
person
is-
who's going long in worship, and the person who's going long in announcements, and the person who gets up and shares a surprise sermon before whatever I was going to say.
It happens.
I've been in the box. Okay,
Yeah,
I will
you're
say
in the
that,
box
yeah.
before you ever speak.
Oh yeah,
Or
totally.
check this out.
I love it.
Or the tech team.
Oh yeah,
against
it's real.
against on stage, with the on stage people.
all the time.
Right, all the time. It's too loud, it's too soft, too short, too
yeah.
fast, too this, too
Yeah.
that. So we do this, and we're enticed into the box with
Yeah.
and by one another. But you actually choose in. I can't say you provoked me into my box.
You made me.
You made me.
Yeah.
You made me get in the box, right?
You made me feel horrible. You made me think evil
Yeah.
of you.
So what comes to mind
Yeah.
as you're talking about that is, you said the golden rule,
Yeah.
or you could say the second great commandment: love your neighbor as yourself.
There you go.
Yeah.
But if yourself doesn't want to be challenged, if yourself doesn't want to be invited
Yeah.
to consider something that is maybe not for their benefit, their health, whatever it is, they're not going to open themselves up to that, and they're going to probably not create a culture in the relationship, right? Where other people feel safe to give contribution. Is that
and I think safety is so key, and I want to commend you because you brought to our team I think you invented it for the entire human race. I don't know.
Could be.
Yeah, probably. Given how humble you are.
Humble.
Humble. You're
No,
probably true.
Humble. You don't say the H.
When you really make it.
I aspire. Anyway, and that's the notion of high regard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Say what you mean. How it plays out.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
You've invited us on your team, as we're joining the team, to take a posture of, is that how you say it?
High regard.
High
Yeah.
trust and high regard.
Yeah, so I'm gonna assume the best about John every time.
That's right.
And you assume the best about me all the time, which is crazy because a lot of time I don't deserve it. But you do, and because you do, I have the freedom to actually look at my own life and look at some of the wreckage that I have wrought in my relationships, including relationships on our team from time to time, as I've been less than charitable with Nick and others, and we've talked about this many times. But you give me the space and the freedom and the safety to actually be able to shift and grow.
That's a perfect segue, Kurt, to saying when one person in the organization or the team or in the church decides to live out of the box, then there's a power to invite other people out of their box. And that's probably a pretty good way of saying what we're aiming at is more and more and more people choosing to live out of their box, not betraying themselves, not self-deceived. And it is possible for us to live outside of the box. And we would say it's the only real way we can make the maximum contribution to live out our calling and to benefit others the way God's created us to live, right?
Yeah, so I would like to challenge the viewer tonight, you two guys, among them, just to consider a couple of people who, by the way they stood in life, changed their context in massive ways. I think of MLK, Martin Luther King, and the way he stood for a particular kind of nonviolent interruption to injustice that he saw.
Yeah.
I think about Nelson Mandela. I don't know a lot about South Africa and its history, but my understanding is that he stood in a way with a degree of integrity and as a role model that made massive change.
And it was very costly, too,
Yeah.
as
You
we
bet.
all know.
Yeah. You mentioned Mother Teresa. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would like to offer, as we wrap tonight and put the plane on the ground, that that it's really in any of us to choose to stand in a way that we live more often than not out of the box with one another and can actually provoke a culture that's deeply satisfying, that honors the Father and causes the advancement of the kingdom of God. So I bless you guys to that end. I bless you to that end in Jesus' name.
Amen.
That's it for our time around the fire today. If being a part of this conversation has been helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. I hope that the end of this conversation has inspired you to live out of the box towards people on your team and in your organization. The possibility of more and more Christian leaders living out of their calling and benefiting those around them is so exciting to us. I love getting to open up this conversation about creating a culture that is not only deeply satisfying to be in, it also invites everyone to be their best. For me, being on a team where living out of the box towards one another is an expectation has been one of the best parts of my job. It doesn't mean that we don't have disagreements. It means that when we disagree, we do so in a way that doesn't cross over that line where we begin to think about each other as less than the God-image humans that we are. And we thrive because of that. I'm here to say that's possible for you and your team as well. Last time we got to hear about the basics of what we talked about today. What is the box? How do you get in it, and how do you get out of it? If you missed that conversation, I would encourage you to go back and watch it. Next time, we're going to continue down this path and talk about how to practice staying out of the box. I can't wait to share that with you. For now, I would encourage you to spend some time with the Lord, inviting Him to show you where you may be in the box with people on your team or in your organization, and how you can begin to get out by honoring His invitations to serve them. I challenge you to leave your highlights from this conversation in the comment section down below. We'd love to respond to them. Also, feel free to share this video with someone who might benefit from it. Until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you and make His face shine upon you.